this book is even more interesting because, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, Dan, but you're probably one of the more misunderstood guys out there on the internet. And I'm wondering, first of all, do you believe that's true? And second of all, is that why you wrote this book? Because as people dive into your story, they start to realize that you're not what they think you were, that you had a childhood a lot like a lot of guys that wasn't all glamorous, and that it starts to make sense a little bit more of your decisions. So I'm wondering, why did you write the book? To set the record straight. And lastly, what was the process like of writing the book? I mean, you and I have been DMing for a couple of years, and I think at one point you told me it was like the hardest thing you've ever done, which says a lot after, SEAL training. But tell me, why write this? Why do it now?
Man, that was a lot of questions. So first of all, misunderstood is probably the number one adjective I would use to describe me. I kind of lead with my worst, and I don't really, usually talk about any of the good stuff. I feel like I give people a highlight reel of my life, and that gives them a certain perception of who I am. And I'm okay with that. I kind of, throughout my poker career, I had a similar thing where, I had to kind of like play a role in order to get into a lot of these private games. And so I'm used to, people misunderstanding me, thinking that I'm, a different guy than I am. So I don't know. I wrote the book really kind of, partially to set the record straight. That was one of the things I'd been meaning to do it for a while. I'd actually written one in 2016 or worked with a ghostwriter to do it. And I was working out with David Goggins during quarantine, and I read his book, and he was telling me about that whole process. And it just, it motivated me to just get off my fucking ass and just do it. And so I wrote the entire book myself. I did all the edits except for one by myself. It's 36 edits I did. And the original book was 708 pages. And I'm not a writer. I'm not a reader. I don't do that shit. And it was honestly the hardest project I've ever taken on. I mean, it was just...
Hey, it's Brian Rose, founder of the DeFi Academy. I've told you my 4-week crypto bootcamp is amazing, but don't take my word for it. This is what my students are saying.
The DeFi Academy was an amazing experience for me. It took me totally out of my comfort zone.
In this course, I was challenged, I was held accountable, and pushed to do things that honestly weren't always easy.
It's been phenomenal, and I can't believe we're already up on our 4 weeks. It has flown by.
Going through this DeFi accelerator by far was one of the best courses I've taken.
You do this course, you really get into the nitty-gritty of the activities that will make you comfortable with decentralized finance.
Thank you so much to Brian and everyone at London Real and the DeFi Academy for even putting together an amazing course like this.
Anybody else that wants to do it, please sign up. It is well worth the money.
I had to cut my workout short. I mean, every hour that I spent in the gym, I felt like was hours that I didn't have being 100% mentally focused. And when I wasn't 100% mentally focused, sometimes I would do work or edits that would actually bring me backwards. And writer's block's a real thing. I mean, it's just, it was a fucking process, man. And it also forces you to like look at your life and the mistakes that you've made, and where decisions have led you. It's kind of like a long therapy session. And then in order to write it, I mean, I wrote enough embarrassing shit in there. You have to really dive into stuff like, getting caught jerking off. That was a story that I thought I'd be taking to my grave. Nobody knew about that. I didn't ever obviously talk about it, but I figured, fuck it. If I'm gonna write the book and I'm gonna tell all the good, you got to have the bad with the good, and for people to really know me, they have to understand like a lot of what's happened in my life that I think sent me on the trajectory that I went on. And, the childhood was the foundation for that. And you can see, it's almost like, I feel like this could be like a psychological study almost, if you look at like the things that have happened and then the motivations going forward and how that impacted my life and the things that I basically perceived, no matter how much, how many girls I had or whatever, I always had a perceived lack there just due to, kind of like how I came up. And so it was probably one of the better things that I did. I would never want to fucking do it again. I don't think anybody ever writes their own book. They all get celebrities, they just all get their own ghostwriters. Nobody does their own book. I mean, it's yeah, it's just not really a thing. But I knew that if I wanted to have my voice, and I have a very specific voice, that I had to do it myself, you know. And you read the book, so I mean, I'm pretty self-deprecating. I'm pretty honest. It's really raw, and you know, the good is fucking. I mean, the good in the sense of like the hedonistic, like pleasure-seeking stuff is far beyond what, you know, any guy probably ever dreams of achieving. And then the shitty stuff is probably worse than anybody ever would be willing to endure. So it's, you know, it's accurate. It's like my whole life has been, man, a big roller coaster, the super high highs and the super low lows. And honestly, I probably wouldn't have it any other way, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, people can tell when you've written it. They can ultimately tell. And so this is clearly you. But to do that, it's a lot of hard work. And I think I had Tim Ferriss in here, author of the 4-Hour Work Week, and he said it's the loneliest job in the world, writing a book, because in some ways you're all alone, like you said, with your thoughts and your past, and you're struggling to try to articulate the truth, and it's just you, right? I mean, no one can really help you write that thing.
Well, I think there's another factor that people don't consider, and that's when you're editing, the book just never, ever feels like it's done.
Right.
I think it was like literally going to hell. I mean, you write this thing and then you think you're done, and then you edit it and then you think you're done. And every time it's just, man, you always feel like you can write something better. You can say something better. And then you start chopping things up, and it's just, it's a never ending battle, it seems like. And so, yeah, I just fucking just did it until I felt like I really couldn't make it any better. And I wrote the whole book in 6 months. I like literally locked myself in the house. I would work 8 to 10 hours straight, sleep for 2 hours, get back, because I felt like there was a limited amount of like productive hours, no matter how much I slept or whatever. And so I found that doing small naps and then just writing until I couldn't write and then napping again was better than trying to get like a, you know, 6 or 7 hour block of sleep. So yeah, I wrote the whole thing in about, I think it was probably about 6 months. And then I edited it then for like 1.5 years after that. So
Oof.
The editing process was probably like the most brutal, I would say.